Hi, Aquarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for June of 2021. This month's themes are a pretty mixed bag. They include creativity, social life, and also work. And you can get your questions about any of those areas answered in a Natal and Transit reading. You'll find a link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, the main news of this month is that Juno is retrograde. Mercury is also retrograde, and there's a solar eclipse where it all kind of meets up in a perfect storm. We're going to tell you all about it, starting with Mercury. Hey, Julia, you want to jump in there?
I sure do. Hey there, Aquarius. So Mercury is starting the month off retrograde, and this is all taking place in your fifth house. The fifth house is a very fun house. It can rule things like dating. It can rule things like your children, as well as any games or diversions you do, as well as creative projects as well. So with Mercury retrograde in the fifth, you may run into some miscommunications with people you play games with, perhaps people that you're also dating at the same time too, as well as any children that you may have as well in your life. The fifth house, since it also rules our creative projects, you might also have to redo or review some of your creative outlets, whether that's painting or writing or something that you do for performance. Now on June 22nd, Mercury is going to start moving direct, so we're slowly but surely going to get out of this very frustrating and annoying cycle, and communications will get a lot easier after. Now, Mars, the planet of action and activity, starts the month out in the sign of Cancer, which is your sixth house of work. So the sixth house, it rules your day-to-day job environment, where you might be running into some frustrations, but you also might be really, really applying yourself a lot too at your job. Mars is kind of an independent planet, so you might not feel like being as much of a team player at work, especially if you can do projects a little bit more on your own. That might be better. And you could be running into some conflicts with the people you work with, including your boss, colleagues, or any clients that you might have. On June 11th, though, Mars is going to be moving into your seventh house. And that is going to be a much more personal place because it represents your romantic relationship, whether you are in a partnered, relationship with a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse. It also represents other partnerships too, like business partnerships and consultants as well, has more of a meaning than just that. But those are the general areas of life. So Mars in this house might mean that you run into some frustrations and some conflicts with the partnerships in your life. This is maybe also a kind of frustrating time to also hire consultants too. So that can be anything from a lawyer to a doctor to a counselor. But in general, you might blow your top a little bit more at your partner, or it might be them who are kind of on an ego trip with you too during this cycle. But Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationship. She starts the month in Gemini, which is your fifth house. Now, that's the very, very first day of the month. She mostly spends last month in the fifth house, but by the very, very first day, she's in that fifth house, maybe giving you a little bit of a boost to your creativity, a boost to your dating life. But by the second, she's going to move into the sixth house. And again, the sixth house is the house of work, your day-to-day job. So if you do anything Venus related at your job, let's say you work with beauty, design, customer service, hospitality, all of those Venus type things, or maybe you're in HR doing diplomatic things, which is also ruled by Venus, it can be definitely a fruitful period at your job. And since the sixth house also rules our routines, our everyday routines, Venus is a planet that likes to indulge a little bit. So if you're on a diet, for example, you might find yourself being a little bit more indulgent while Venus is going through the cycle.
Yeah, that can happen. So while we're on the topic of social life, Juno, as I mentioned before, is retrograde this month. And I guess the bad news is it's going to be retrograde for a long time. It happens every year. It spends a couple of months retrograde. This year, it's happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friends, groups, communities, networks, whether that you meet up with these people in person or whether it's online. your sense of tribe. And so Juno here is going to really, I think, throw a monkey wrench into your social networking. You may have to kind of look into the past and do a little bit of retrospection on any major relationships that you're in, or on your relationship with the group in general. And if you do that good work, then you can learn a lot and grow a lot in these communities. Now, this Juno is opposed Mercury and also very, very involved in the solar eclipse that's happening on June 10th. Yes, where the sun and the moon are together here in Gemini in the 5th house with Mercury. So again, this is a house of creativity and self-expression. And Mercury is about communication, also learning. If you wanted to go back and pick up a new creative skill, this could actually be a really good month for doing that. It wouldn't be surprising if you found that you have to do that, like go and dig up that old Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, software that you used to use and play around with it some more. Because I think that Mercury retrograde is suggesting maybe there's something you need to go back and learn. So the eclipse, however, is, I think, pretty dramatic, pretty intense. And the 5th house being a house of self, it's a house of, I think it's a house of ego being ruled by the sun. You might feel like some of the miscommunications that happen are personal, are kind of targeted at you. And that's not necessarily true. So you might want to just, handle your communications as smoothly as possible. Certainly be prepared to apologize and behave in a soothing way towards whoever you're talking with, and also your own self, And you can find out a lot more about that eclipse in our June 2021 news playlist on our YouTube channel. You can also find out more about Juno retrograde there. There's another moon coming later in the month. It's happening on the 24th. And that one is a full moon in Capricorn and opposite the sun in Cancer. And the full moon is usually a time of high emotion, not usually as intense as an eclipse. But this one is kind of interesting and complicated because it's the moon in Capricorn, and the moon, when in Capricorn, kind of tries not to feel. It kind of tries to just clamp down on the feelings, and it can be very brittle and self-protective of emotions. This particular moon being in the 12th house says that you might want to retreat to a place of solitude, that fortress of solitude during this moon, and handle your own emotions. But I do want to say that the sun in Cancer over here knows something about nurture. And so there's probably somebody in your life who you could reach out to and get the soothing that you need. And also Jupiter is here, I think, being very helpful and helping you to find that solitude that you really need during this moon. Well, that's all that we have for you, Aquarius. I hope you enjoyed it. You can always find our horoscopes on our website, pandoraastrology.com. You can find also the monthly forecast is there, and you'll find our services page where you can get a reading, and you can also take classes. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.